Wow.
What's up, YouTube? Wow here, and today I'll be going over the key lessons from the book, The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferris. First of all, let me just clarify what this book is not about. Despite the title, this book is not saying you can just call your boss tomorrow and say, hey, I'm going to start working for 4 hours a week and I'll still get everything else done. No. But this book is saying that you can definitely get a lot more done with a lot less effort and time. And therefore, the ideal lifestyle you're looking for is a lot closer than you think. This book was originally written for entrepreneurs who want to escape the 9 to 5 office grind and start their own business. But even if this does not apply to you, there are still a lot of helpful tips you can take away from this book. So, let's get to it. Idea number 1, making more money is not the objective. That's right. Having more money is not the end goal, but having the freedom and the lifestyle that money creates is the goal. And I do agree with Tim here, because what's the point of having all the money in the world if you don't have the time to enjoy it? But the question remains, how can we have the lifestyle of a millionaire without having all that money to begin with? Well, first, we have to understand the differences between the deferrers and the new rich. The deferrers are those who work really, really hard in their physical prime for 40 years and then save everything up for retirement at the age of 45. This is what most of us do. Whereas the new rich, well, don't think too much about the term, are those who try to live the retired lifestyle throughout their career while traveling and learning other new skills and still be able to make enough money. Tim will argue that life is meant to be lived, not deferred. Well, I know this sounds very fancy and somewhat unrealistic, and it's definitely not for everyone out there. But I do think that the term new rich is not referring to money rich, but rather time and freedom rich, which automatically make your money worth 10 times more because you get to enjoy it. So here are the 4 steps you can take to join the new rich. Define, eliminate, automate, and liberate. DEAL. Let's start with the first letter, D, define. First of all, it's worth defining your fears as well as your dreams. Too often, it's the fear of unknown that prevents us from doing what we want to do. So Tim says, whenever you're scared of doing something, just ask, what is the absolute worst case scenario? It's probably not as bad as you think, but the cost of inaction is actually the greatest risk of all because it will only lead to one irreversible outcome, regrets. I also like how the book says the timing was never right. Lots of us, including myself, have this mindset that, oh, is this the right time to have kids, to start a new business, to start a podcast, or whatever. Tim says, if it's important to you and you want to do it eventually, just do it now and figure it out along the way. This relates to me quite well recently because when I decided to start my YouTube channel, I was thinking, oh my gosh, is this the right time? What are people going to think about me? Am I even qualified to do this? Are people just going to think that I'm a fraud? Well, in reality, the worst case scenario is just that I put out videos that no one likes and people just laugh at it. Is this the end of the world? No, but am I going to regret not doing this when I'm older? Probably. So therefore, here I am, and thanks for all your support by subscribing to my channel. Next, we have E, eliminate. It's time to eliminate the activities that are not getting us what we want. Here, Tim talks about the 3 productivity rules that have become mainstream for the last 10 to 15 years. They are Pareto's law, Parkinson's law, and batching. Pareto's law is also known as the 80-20 rule. It's the idea that the majority of results come from a selected few efforts. For example, 80% of the profit come from 20% of the customers. 80% of the wealth is held by 20% of the society, and 80% of these sales come from 20% of the product. If you have doubts about this rule, just recall what made you happy or productive last week. Probably only a handful of activities will stand out. Our goal is to identify and prioritize these events in order to maximize your results. Parkinson's law states that the work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Elon Musk said it really well. If you give yourself 30 days to clean your home, it will take 30 days. But if you give yourself 3 hours, it will take 3 hours. The same applies to your goals, ambitions, and plans. When you combine these 2 laws, you get the following conclusion. Only few things matter, and what matters needs less time to complete than we think. The book says that we need to do the following simulations in an effort to maximize our daily activities. 1. Imagine the doctor says you have a heart attack and you can only work for 2 hours per day. What is the one thing that you choose to work on? 2. Pretend there's an emergency and you have to leave the country tomorrow. What do you make sure to get done today, despite how impossible it seems? By running these two simulations, you remove the unnecessary and only focus on the bare essentials by giving yourself a very clear and short deadline. And with enough practice, you will start to see how you can turn a 40-hour work week into a 4-hour work week. The third and final productivity tool is called batching. It's the idea of doing tasks that are similar together. Tim says instead of checking your email every 10, 15, 30 minutes like most of us do, you should create a system where you limit your availability to email only twice a day, at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. for example. Chances are you're not going to miss anything important, but it does free you up to become more productive. Giving everyone immediate access to you 24/7 will only invite unnecessary distractions. And batching allows you to focus on the most critical work from start to finish without any interruption. And I think the same principle applies to a lot of our daily activities too. Instead of doing your laundry or going grocery shopping every day, you can just batch and do it all together on a Saturday or Sunday to save up time, gas, and the effort to go back and forth. One trip takes care of all. Next up, we have A, which stands for automate. And this is the idea of outsourcing certain tasks in order to free up more time. Here, the book talks about the differences between absolute income and relative income. Absolute income only looks at money alone, but relative income looks at both money and time as vital resources. For example, A person makes $100,000 a year and works 80 hours a week, and B person makes $50,000 a year and works 20 hours a week. Who is richer? Well, in terms of absolute income, A is 2 times richer than B, but in terms of relative income, after we factor time in the equation, B is richer than A because B is making $50 an hour, whereas A is only making $25 an hour. So the idea is that if you're an entrepreneur and your time is worth a certain amount, you should pay somebody who makes less than that to take things off your plate. It lets you have the time to focus on the more important things. And I think sometimes people are hesitant to outsource tasks because they feel like they can do it for free themselves. But once you're able to make the mental switch that time is just as valuable as money, the idea of outsourcing things like cleaning, babysitting, or even a virtual assistant have become somewhat attractive. Tim talks about utilizing geographic arbitrage to pay somebody who lives in India a lot less to do things like researching or planning for you remotely. Do you ever feel like there's not enough time on your hands? Outsourcing. Last but not least, the final step is L, which stands for liberate. Now, if you have made the move to chase your dream, start your own business, and automate the process, and also become 10 times more productive using both Pareto's law and Parkinson's law, as well as batching, Tim argues that you can now liberate yourself from the daily 9-to-5 office grind and still collect enough passive income to virtually work in countries like Thailand and Vietnam, where the dollar goes a lot further. While this is not a lifestyle for everyone, what stood out to me was that he reminded us that having all the money and time in the world is never the dream. Wait, what? Yep, in fact, too much idle time has become the number one cause for depression and unhappiness among the retired and the ultra rich. That sounds so counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because almost all of us wish we had more time at our disposal. But too much idle time is terrible for your mental health because when there's a lack of external focus, whether it be a daytime job, a project, or a goal, the human mind turns inward on itself, and we all have the innate tendency to ask questions like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Or what's the meaning of life? For some reason, we want these big questions answered, and I'm not trying to get philosophical here, but I think Tim does have a good point that when we find an ambitious goal or a career that forces us to grow, these doubts tend to subside. He argues that in order to lead a fulfilled and meaningful life, there are 2 fundamental components. 1, to learn continuously, and 2, to provide service. It makes a lot of sense to me because none of us want to stay in a job where learning curve has flattened and you feel bored every day, or if you feel like the service you're providing is not improving the lives of others. The service comes in all shapes and forms. It could be a doctor in America who saves lives in the ER, an artist in Southeast Asia who puts a smile on the faces of millions, or a park ranger in Africa who rescues animals every day. Service is just an attitude. Well, here you have it, the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Escape 9 to 5, live anywhere, and join the new rich. Today we went over the 4 steps to become a new rich. To define your dreams and fears, to eliminate the unnecessary, to automate the process, and finally, to liberate yourself. I do want to mention that this book was written 15 years ago. Therefore, some of the tools and services he recommended are a little bit out of date. Some critics also mentioned that Tim carries a bit of an arrogant tone in the book, but I would say look beyond these. There is still a lot of helpful advice from the book. I hope you enjoyed the review. Leave me a comment and let me know what stood out to you in the video. Thanks for watching. Words of wisdom. Peace out.